WEF, Davos, Switzerland meeting, and as we know, Davos elite are now worried about global volatility, cost of living crisis, and the catastrophic outcomes. Tyler Durden, Zero Hedge reports. So what happens when plebs can't afford bread and the circuses are not that entertaining? Nothing good, which is why the cost of living crisis is the number one problem, according to the World Economic Forum's Global Risks Report, an annual poll of 1,200 government businesses and civil society professionals. And according to that poll, there will be little respite from energy inflation, food and security crisis in the coming years or months. In the near term, nearly 70% of those polled say volatile economies and various shocks are in the cards, while 20% or so of those polled say they fear catastrophic outcomes within the next 10 years, according to Bloomberg reports. Quote, very few leaders in today's generation have been through these kinds of traditional risks around food and energy, while at the same time battling what's coming up in terms of debt, what's coming up in terms of climate. This is what Saidia Zahidi said, WF Management Director, who warned that the world may be entering a vicious cycle. We're going to need a sort of new type of leadership that is much more agile, she said. Next week will mark the annual WF conference in Davos, Switzerland. That's where the global elite sit around the table discussing how best to run our lives. The gathering begins at a time when inflation is at a 4-decade high across many advanced economies, with interest rates far more elevated than anyone has predicted 12 months ago. The report calls for global cooperation and warns that if governments mishandle the current crisis, they risk creating societal distress at an unprecedented level as investments in health, education, and economic development disappear, further eroding social cohesion. Increases in military expenditure could reduce support for vulnerable households, leaving some countries in a perpetual state of crisis, and set back the urgent need to tackle climate change and biodiversity loss, Bloomberg reports. So the worst case scenario, according to this report, is the risk of geo-economic warfare, in which geopolitical rivals are likely to increase economic tensions, exacerbating both short and long-term risks. In this already toxic mix of unknown rising global risks, a new shock event from a new military conflict to a new virus could become unmanageable, according to Zahidi. Climate and human development, therefore, must be at the core of concerns of global leaders to boost resilience against future shocks. And what's more, the report also warned that the interaction of a cluster of risks can cause a cascade of future problems in a polycrisis, such as rescue revival, in which countries compete for natural resources. And this is on Zero Hedge by Tyler Durden. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box